Today's episode is sponsored by Anchor. My cousin recommended this app to me, and I thought this was an app about boats or anchors for sale or something, but Anchor is a completely free and easy way to start your own podcast. All of the tools are laid out for you, from recording to editing to even adding voice messages from listeners. You can also podcast from your phone or computer. Wait, there's more. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more services. No tedious individual uploading and sharing. And the best part, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That is the free Anchor app, or go to anchor.fm. Hello, everyone. My name is Frank Anthony, and welcome to Let Me Be Frank. So we are already on episode 5, and today's topic is effects of COVID-19 on children. And I have a very special guest. I have teacher and childcare provider Kim Stickley. Say hi.
Hello.
So happy to have you. And
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I miss you.
I miss you too.
So let's get right into it.
Right.
So one thing that came out, I want to say it came out 6 days ago on the CDC, maybe 7, about the CDC guidelines for reopening schools. And we're going to go through some of the guidelines too, and we can talk about what we think of those, if we think it's possible, this and that. So in general, Kimmy, what do you think about the new guidelines?
Well, first off, they're not realistic for a school setting. Some of them are, but if you look at the general list that the CDC provided, it's just not appropriate for all ages, especially little ones. I mean, the first guideline right here on the list says wear masks over the age of 2.
Yeah.
Now, I can tell you from being a toddler teacher at the age of 2, trying to get a 2-year-old to keep a mask on for more than 1 minute is impossible. To make them wear a mask all day long is just insane. Not realistic at all.
I was thinking even 5 minutes. They'd be ripping that thing
No,
off.
not even 5 minutes. Not even. I can tell you right now, because kids don't even like wearing hats at that age. They don't like anything on their face. I mean, you can't even wipe their boogers off their nose because they don't like their face being touched. So imagine being a tiny 2-year-old that doesn't want your face being touched. Now you have something constantly touching your face all day. And especially at that age, kids learn through their mouths. They teeth, they bite everything. I mean, that's what kids do at that age. So you're taking one of their sensory needs.
That's a good point.
And also, I mean, for any kid, any age, to have to wear a mask all day long is a lot. I mean, yeah, nurses and everybody else have to do it, and I give them a ton of credit because I can't even go to the grocery store for half an hour without breaking into dripping sweat afterwards because of wearing it.
Mm.
So to expect a child to wear it for 6 to 8 hours a day at school is just not realistic. And that's just the first guideline.
No, I know. There's a bunch. I'm hoping that because of the practice they've had before going in, I hope they'd be a little bit better than we expect, but I do agree it's gonna,
right.
The youngest ages, it's gonna be like maybe high school. I don't think that one will be as difficult, but
right. I mean, I feel like when you get into the older ages, like middle school, high school, then at least with the cloth masks that they have now, with all the designs and everything, it can be fun for them. But for, younger, like 2-year-olds to elementary school, that age is going to be tough for them to sit and wear a mask, even with all the fun designs. For
Yeah.
a kid to just sit there for that long with something on their face is just not comfortable. It's like having them wear a ski mask all day.
And I thought about too, just in general with these, like I wonder, I don't know if you've heard anything, but I wonder like if there's going to be all these new punishments for like moving your mask slightly or like I wonder.
Right, I haven't heard anything, but I mean, I can't imagine the schools being super, super strict with these things, but then at the
I hope
same
not.
time, if they aren't strict at all, then what's the point? You know what
Yeah,
I mean? I think at this point, with how strict some of these guidelines are, we should just be staying in lockdown until we at least find a vaccine for this stuff. Because just looking at the rest of this list, desks 6 feet apart, all facing the same way, that's not necessarily a problem in like middle school, high school, because that's usually the way desks are set up. But I remember in elementary school, my desks were always set in clusters. We were in groups
yeah,
because at that age, social interactions is just as important
that's
as
big.
academic. So, and looking at all these other things, installing sneeze guards and partitions, that makes sense, but I guarantee you in some of the rundown areas, those things are going to get broken and vandalized so quickly.
Mm.
All these schools are going to spend so much money putting all these extra precautions into these schools. And, things about districts like inner city schools, like Springfield, inner city New York, those schools already have it as tough as it is. But to be installing all these type of rules, forget about it. You might as well just have open chaos because that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, I think definitely like schools are, well, a lot of schools are already struggling with like for example, like trying to find money to do certain things. And then on top of
Right,
it, I notice a lot of these things too. Um, I feel like school professionals, they're also struggling with time and trying to fit all of their normal things in, let alone all these extra
right,
things that we have to start doing.
right, exactly. Like, looking at the list again, same children stay with same staff all day, no switching groups or teachers. Now, that one in particular, I have a lot of questions about, especially being a toddler teacher, because in my school, the way we're set up is staffing is staggered. So you have two teachers per classroom, and you have the opener and you have the closer. So usually I'm the one that closes, so I'll come in an hour, 2 hours after my lead teacher comes in. So that way I'm there at the end of the day. But usually at the end of the day, when kids we don't have that many kids, we usually combine groups of children because it's senseless for me to be in my classroom with only two kids
Yeah.
while the other classrooms are the same. We might as well combine until all the kids go home. And that's what we usually do. So when it says same children, same as stay with same staff all day, no switching groups or teachers, that I think is going to be one of the biggest and toughest things, especially for the EEC childcare.
Mhm.
That's the
Yeah,
one thing I have the most questions about.
yeah, that one I missed because I quickly read the list and got and
Right.
certain ones pointed out to me, and that one, yeah, I really didn't think about how
Well,
much
because
that
it
is gonna.
doesn't, well, because you don't think of it in like elementary school or high
Yeah,
school, really, because I mean, actually, if you think of now that I'm thinking about it more, actually, even in high school, you're switching groups because you don't have the same class all day long.
no, yeah.
So then that puts into question, oh, does that mean one teacher is going to be now teaching
Oh,
all
all the
subjects?
subjects. Yeah, I didn't think of
Because
that.
teachers aren't qualified for that when you're in high school and everything. Like, yeah, all teachers in Massachusetts have a basic knowledge, but
No,
you're going to
all I
expect
could.
a math teacher to teach chemistry in high school. Good
I
luck.
was all I pictured was this English teacher teaching like Romeo and Juliet or Shakespeare or whatever the hell you learn in school now because we're so old. And then turn like an hour goes by or whatever, and they turn around, they're like, okay, class, like, bye. And then they turn around and then they put a sombrero on, they're like, hola. And they're like teaching Spanish class.
That poses the question of whether or not one teacher is going to be teaching all subjects to the children versus the kids going to different classes for different subjects.
Yeah, and that's definitely, I agree. It's definitely a good thing to question and see what's gonna what's gonna actually happen when school does start.
Right.
And on the CDC guidelines, it also talks about no sharing of items or supplies. I think with older grades, will be once again it'll be a little bit easier. Besides the occasional person that doesn't have a pencil or piece of paper, and they try to ask the
Right.
neighbor about it. But I know younger kids, I don't know. I
Right.
feel
Like
like
I I teach toddlers and preschoolers, and 90% of what I teach is for them to share things.
I was just gonna say, aren't they just learning about that?
That is literally what all of preschool teachers do is teach kids how to share, and now we're literally teaching them the opposite. It sucks.
I know, and I thought about too with all this before, like to keep going through the list. I just thought about with all these guidelines that they're temporary, of course, until the
Right.
virus is
Or a
gone,
vaccine or something. Yeah.
the vaccine. Which on the news this morning, they said something about the end of this year. We'll see, but I wonder for these temporary guidelines if they're going to affect the kids long term because these are their growing stages in life. And like just I wonder if these are things they're gonna like for example getting yelled at for being too close to someone else, is that gonna affect their
Oh,
like I'm wondering
absolutely.
development, yeah, going forward.
Absolutely. Especially the younger ages, because developmentally speaking, the younger ages, social interactions are a key milestone, a key part of their development. And right now, all of these kids are being socially isolated when they should be in school making those social connections. And, I know we were planning on getting into this a little bit later, but kids already are so already socially distant and detached from everything as it
Mm,
is, because I feel like the newer generations, they don't necessarily know how to teach kindness and teach social interactions. I feel like schools nowadays are so focused on academics that we lose, how to be social and how to interact with each other and how to make connections and how to be friends. And for kids, especially young ones, right now, that's so important. And, when they go back to school and they're being told to stay 6 feet apart, you have some kids who are already shy and uncomfortable. You know, those kids are probably going to be doing somewhat okay with these guidelines, but those kids who thrive on those social interactions, who want to be near other kids, who want to talk and want to go and hug their friends, that they need those things to be able to function, and you're taking those things away,
yeah,
that's going to cause so many other behavioral problems, when it comes time to actual academic learning. If they don't have that outlet for social interactions, they're going to get distracted in the classroom. They're going to start passing notes, trying to talk to their friends in class. I mean, you're going to get those typical, rebellious behaviors because kids are going to be feeling like they're trapped with all these new rules when school already has enough rules for kids as it is.
they really do. They have a whole book of policies.
Right. I mean, you're already throwing a kid into what feels like a jail for some, and with all these rules as it is, now to throw in all these extra rules and extra, procedures in place, it's just not realistic. And I get it's temporary and it's what we need to do for this, virus and whatnot, but I honestly think what we need to do is just go in a complete lockdown like Italy did and let this virus ride out its course and so we can get on with things. But trying to shove everybody back into what they think is normal is just not realistic. So we have to face it.
Yeah,
Right now, there is no normal, not the normal that we knew before. Any normal now is going to be different.
yeah, I'm wondering if it'd be easier to just, well, not even just easier, but more efficient if there was online schooling at least until after winter break, like at the end of December, like into January, and see
Right.
like if things are better to let kids in or just the whole year. Like, because yeah, I mean these, I don't know. I definitely I sense some shit shows.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've heard so many parents complain about the guidelines, but then I've also heard the opposite. People
Yeah,
praising these guidelines because, people know that it's what we need to do to keep their kids safe. And, it's kind of like you have that fine line of people who want to keep their kids safe, but people who desperately just want things to go back to normal, that they don't necessarily care about things being safe. And with
yeah,
all these guidelines to those people, it's not normal. So therefore, they're fighting it. They don't like it. I mean, given there's a lot on that list not to like, especially for those kids, for those families with children with special needs, these guidelines are just absolutely not realistic at all. I mean, for somebody who's autistic to be confined in a small space with space dividers up around them and all that, it's not going to work.
I definitely agree. Looking at some more of these two, I know. Let's see the couple I can put together. Let's see. There was with something about like cleaning. Yeah, schedule for increased routine cleaning, and there was
That
another one about like trying to do temperature checks.
Well, I mean, so before my work, my work closed, but then we opened up as an emergency care site for the state. And so I worked the first like 2 days of when it was opened as an emergency care site. And what they did as a procedure was as soon as you walked in, they scanned your forehead for your temperature and they had you sign a release form. Even staff members, we had to sign a release form saying that we're
Okay.
agreeing to being healthy enough to work. Um, and that, like, any liability, whatever happens, we acknowledge it. Um, but my biggest thing is because when this stuff started and when we became an emergency care site, we stripped all of our classrooms of anything fabric. And this is what we were
Mm,
told to by the CDC. So any toy that had fabric on it, any like pillows, blankets, doll toys, like doll clothes, any of that stuff, anything that was fabric or had porous material, we had to bag up and leave our classroom, which for a toddler and
wow.
infant room, that's like 90% of what
A
you
lot.
have in your room. Like literally, we had like four babies like on a shelf, and
Hmm.
three of them had soft bodies. So they had like fabric on them and no way
Yeah.
of taking it off. So we were down to one baby, and we weren't about to leave one baby doll on the shelf for 10 toddlers to fight over. So that meant none of our kids could play with baby dolls.
Jeez.
And for some of our kids, that was a very important part of their day. Like that was part of their routine was to walk in and play with the baby dolls immediately.
Yeah.
And you're going to get that with a lot of these kids. A lot of kids strive and thrive on routine. And when you take their routine and you flip it upside down and do whatever the hell you want to it, like they're doing with the CDC guidelines, these kids are going to be all out of whack.
And like you mentioned too, with special needs children, they desperately, I
Those
feel like they
kids
desperately need
especially
routine.
need routine. Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that's gonna. No, I agree. It's definitely gonna. It's
And
gonna
like
be.
you
It's
said
gonna be
about
chaos.
like the
Hopefully, not too much.
yeah, and going back to what you said about like making extra time for cleaning, like
Yeah.
we already took one entire day of being closed just to clean. And we already clean a lot on a normal basis, especially in infant, toddler, and preschool rooms.
Mm.
But I feel like with these guidelines, we're going to be required to do an insanely amount more of cleaning. And there's just not enough time in the day for that stuff to happen. Like just having two teachers in the classroom with 10 toddlers, especially my classroom, I had 10 toddlers who had a lot of behaviors, and it took everything just for us two to be able to get the classroom to run smoothly and get things clean. But to have to spray and sanitize everything down like they're going to be asking us to between every little activity we do is just not realistic.
I agree, and
I mean,
I
as a teacher, some of these guidelines that we already have to face for cleaning and sanitizing already are a little pushing it. With these new guidelines, it's really pushing it.
we are going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to definitely get more into this. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. And we are back. We've been talking about the CDC guidelines for reopening schools, and we left off talking about how time consuming the cleaning and there it said if possible the health and temperature checks and just that it is going to be difficult with there's already some time restrictions on things and then that stuff on top of like trying to fit that stuff in as well is going to be a little bit time consuming and hopefully I don't know, hopefully teachers can keep juggling more than what they already do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, the last before going on to other questions, we could leave off the guidelines with one thing that stood out to me with them was there was things about well, actually a couple of things because there was things about having the desk 6 feet, yeah, 6 feet apart, having the desk,
Hmm.
and also having to sit 6 feet apart at in cafeterias at lunch, and
Yes. There's just
that
not enough space for that to happen in a lot of
uh,
schools.
my
Just
question was, yeah, like how's that going to happen?
Yeah, I think especially for like lunches, they're gonna have to stagger lunches. But then that means some kids are probably gonna be eating their lunch at like 10 o'clock and some are gonna be eating their lunch at 2.
And with
Because they're gonna have some big schools are gonna have to stagger their lunch so much because their cafeteria can only fit so many if you're
so many
sitting kids
people.
6 feet apart from each other.
No, I know. I hope they count it before all this. And I know for me, I didn't at least with the main courses, which this might change things for kids a little bit, but I know with mine, I a lot of my close friends, I didn't see them in the main core classes. I either saw
Until
them
lunch.
Yeah, usually
Yeah,
lunch,
lunch was
sometimes
the time you saw all your friends.
sometimes electives if you planned to take the same ones like in high school. Junior high it's a little
Right, you'd be
different,
with your
but
friends, but chances are the time you'd see your friends is either in like a special class or lunchtime.
yeah, and I just that's where just so much social interaction happens during that time that's gonna
Right.
be
I
completely gone.
I completely agree, and as much as I hate to say it and hate to bring it up, but you know, the suicide rate for younger children is already going up in this country as it is. And with the way things are going and with all these restrictions and guidelines, it's just going to make that go up even more because kids aren't going to be able to be that socially distant for that long. It's just not it's not human nature for them.
No, I think yeah, do you wanna I was just I feel like we're touching the subject. Do you wanna skip question two and go to question three
Sure.
first? Because that has to do more with, yeah, where today's younger generation, they've become more socially detached from the world due to technology and social media. What do you think are going to happen to children this school year with the social distancing in place? And I know we're mentioning little things, and I figured since we're already getting into this topic, we could go
Right.
here.
Yeah, I mean, kids are already socially awkward. Like I said earlier, kids haven't been taught properly how to make friends and how to be socially interacting with other people because kids nowadays have been brought up on tablets and computers and TV screens. As sad as it is to say, but it's true. I mean, kids, they see everything. Half of what comes out of their mouth is, things they've heard on TikTok or YouTube or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I swear, I listen to my nieces and nephews who are all under the age of 15, and I can't understand half of what they're saying because it's all slang and terms they've learned on TikTok and other shit. Like yeet, like what the hell is that? I still don't know.
I was hoping we would never get old to not understand.
Well, we've
I remember
gotten
when
that old. But I mean, again, kids just don't know how to socially interact with each other. Like I talk to my niece all the time because I try to ask her, I'm like, you got any plans with your friends? You doing anything? I mean, she's definitely old enough now. I mean, she's 15. She's gonna be driving soon. Like, she should be wanting to go out with her friends and do things. But all she wants to do is just sit on her tablet, sit on her phone, or just sit and watch YouTube. And it's like these ridiculous YouTube videos of just like random people doing random shit or playing video games, and it's like what is this doing to their minds? I mean, they're
yeah,
not doing anything. And yeah, like we've talked about in the past before about how, when we were in school, summer vacation, sure, it was a blast, but when you went back to school in September, you didn't know shit. You forgot half of what you just learned the year before and everything else because you didn't think about school for an entire 3 months. You didn't have to. But now, when kids go back to school, they haven't really, really had to sit and do work for 6, 7, 8 months at that point.
yeah,
Like, they're not gonna know how to go to school anymore. All they're gonna want to do is hide on their phones and be distant from each other, which they already are. And I feel like some kids will be craving the socialness, especially like the older kids, but I feel like it's almost become the new normal for kids these days to be socially distant through social because they have social media. They can talk through text, they can talk through Snapchat, Instagram, whatever it be. Therefore, they don't bother trying to talk to anybody in person because why should they have to when they have it all at their fingertips?
yeah. Like you said with watching the videos and stuff, that's Like that's not like, oh, just a handful of people do that. It's very common
No,
now. Like so many people
extremely
watch
common.
YouTube videos, and TikTok's been super big lately. I mean,
Ugh,
there's a
too
couple
big
people who have become celebrities because of
because of
TikTok,
TikTok. I know, it's ridiculous.
which is crazy. Do, and also touching back on when you were talking about kids starting to feel suicidal,
Right.
I think definitely the social distancing, it is going to make it more
Yeah.
challenging for them to feel like they're not alone.
Right. I mean, especially like you think about like middle school age, like that age in particular, especially is the age that I worry about because those are the kids who were finally getting in touch with their emotions, finally figuring out who they are and whatnot. And if they already feel like they don't fit into the normal of society, and if they already feel like they're socially distant from others, to put these sort of things in place is just even worse.
Yeah. Do you were talking about also, is one of our questions too, about how we're used to having like the summer off, which is like a 2, 3 months depending, and how kids now have so much time off, like way, like I don't even know. And I'm just joking when I say this, but I was gonna say I don't even know if I'd go back to school.
Right. No,
It's
I
just been so much
think
time.
honestly at this point you are gonna have a lot of kids who are gonna refuse to go back to school.
Like it's, yeah, it's gonna be so foreign. Do you think that kids should stay back a grade so that they don't end up missing certain things, like that they end up learning what they're supposed to?
I mean, I don't think that we should be holding kids back a grade. I think we just need to figure out a way to keep this online learning going
Hmm.
until there is a vaccine and we can just fully get back to normal. I like I said before, I think we should just stay in a full lockdown, you know, keep social distancing until we figure out a vaccine. But the thing is, with all these states reopening back up and everything else, it's just not going to happen. But
Which that's,
yeah.
yeah, that's been crazy too. I do know, sorry, I do know a few, I know a couple people that they're thinking of keeping their kids back, or some of them, there was someone that they're not going to let their kids um go to preschool this year, which that one, like I feel like I don't blame them for that, just
Preschool, I
because.
definitely don't think is necessary right now. Well, being a preschool teacher, I am all for preschool and understand the needs for preschool. But right now, those kids could afford to stay home.
Yeah, like I don't know if some of them going, if it's going to end up being more detrimental than
Well, not
beneficial.
to mention, kids are germ factories.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's what people need to realize that children are germ factories. That's why schools were the first things to close during this virus. You know what I mean? And that's why it's one of the last things to be reopened, is because children, they're like sponges. They touch one thing and they soak up all the germs from what they just touched, and then they transfer it to something and someone else. And no matter how many guidelines, no matter what you do to put in place, children are still going to spread germs. I don't care how you put it, they're still going to, whether it's they're slipping off their mask and sneezing, they're wiping their boogers on something, whatever it be, they're gonna still spread the virus. If they have it in their system, which this virus is one that stays dormant in your system, they're going to have it, they're going to go to school, and they're going to spread it without knowing. And it's just going to be a second wave of this virus. I mean, I already know
Yeah,
we're
I
going to
feel
get a second wave because they're opening up beaches and everything else already.
I was just going to say, yeah, related to that, I feel like adults are already having issues with staying distant
Oh
And
yeah,
just, and even with some of the behaviors, like you said, with like for example, like some kids forget to wash their hands, and that's how they catch certain germs and
right.
spread them. Like adults forget that stuff
Right. Every adult forgets those things. Everybody forgets them.
too.
But yeah, and like you said, like like even adults are having trouble staying inside. Like my partner and I, we went for a drive the other day just to go drive to the beach, see if we could maybe go walk. And we had the idea of getting out of the house to go walk the beach, but so did everybody else. Even though it was Friday and they hadn't opened the beaches until Monday, people still flocked to the beaches like crazy. We went to Gloucester and Good Harbor Beach was packed.
Mm.
And but Mark was kind of upset. He was like, "Oh, well, you know, there's so many people, there's too many people out." And I'm like, "Well, you kind of can't get mad because we had the same idea as they did. We wanted to get outside and walk. The only difference is that we chose to leave. We didn't stay. They did." But we can't necessarily get mad at them for wanting to get out of the house because we wanted to do the same thing, which is why we're here driving by. It's
Yeah.
human nature to want to get out. We're not supposed to be locked in our houses and to expect children to be socially distant in their own schools. Not gonna work.
You know, one place that hasn't been busy that I discovered, it's a little morbid, but cemeteries. I've been walking around and I'll only see either there's no one there or there's like one or two people at most, but
Right.
that's a place to social distance.
Which is kind of sad because you would think that with all this extra time people are spending at home, that they would want to go tend to their loved ones' graves.
Damn, what a truth bomb.
Sorry, I had to drop that truth bomb out there.
With all the lives we're losing, they should be visiting those people. Like, why aren't they doing? No, I did see when I was walking. I walked this morning and the other day I did see people. They were visiting someone that, and I'm assuming maybe it's passed recently. I feel because it was a bigger group. I feel like maybe
Yeah.
like it was 4 or 5 of them. Maybe they were, unless it was a birthday. Who knows? But watch now,
Wow,
like
birthdays
everyone's
at
gonna.
cemeteries. Okay. This
Well,
is
like for their
this is taking
birthday.
a dark turn.
I okay, so rewind. when hold on a second. I mean, my family and I,
You have
we are
birthday
weird. I
parties
get
in the cemetery, Frankie?
not not birthday parties per se, but when it was my uncle's birthday, we all went to his stone
Gotcha.
to be like, "Happy birthday, you're dead." No, but like we said, "Happy birthday," like it was his birthday,
Gotcha.
and we were honoring. Jeez. Watch everyone's gonna leave the beaches. They're gonna go to the cemetery now and sunbathe and visit their loved ones, and then they're gonna be charging people to go into the
Oh
cemeteries.
Lord.
On this note, I
Yep.
think we're gonna take another commercial. We'll be right back. And we are back. We left off on a little bit of some shenanigans, getting a little off topic. I will take the blame for that one, but back to the children. So, Kim, what do you? It's so weird calling you Kim. I usually call you Kimmy. And I was about to be like,
It's
so
okay. It's
Miss.
weird calling you Frank, so it's okay.
That's true. You do call me Frankie a lot. I just noticed that more that because a lot of other people call me Frank, and we're getting off topic again.
Again. Hello, welcome back.
So Kimmy, Mystically, what do you think we can do to strengthen social interaction between kids while also not contracting this virus?
So I had a really cute idea. I personally believe that kids learn a lot through reading and telling stories. So I feel like
Hmm.
it would be fun for families to create, like, have their kids create stories to send to each other. Like, one kid could, like, say if you and I were friends and we were kids, I could,
I thought
I
you were
could,
gonna say saying if we were
no, sorry, we're
pretend we
not friends. But no, say like say if we were kids and we couldn't hang out, I
yeah.
would write, the first chapter to a story, and then I'd send it to you in the mail. And then you write the next chapter of the story.
Oh, okay.
And, you can go back and forth until the story's done. I feel like, I don't know, that was just a cute idea. Pen pals, taking it back to the snail mail days, but
I've been pen paling actually, and it is fun.
it is fun. I love pen pals. I mean, speaking of pen pals, I should be pen paling my friend in California. But, I feel like that's a good way for kids to connect and strengthen social interactions, video chatting, which, not just for school, not just for your Zoom or whatever, but actually just chatting, Snapchat, you know,
See, and
FaceTime, whatever it be.
in sorry, I'm so I love the whole pen pal thing. And in fifth grade, they actually made us have
Yep.
make
Yep.
us, but an
No, we
assignment
had
was
we
to have
had
pen pals.
assigned pen pals at one point
Yeah,
too.
mine was
Yeah, and
from
I liked it.
France.
I can't remember where mine was from, but it was some obscure country too. I liked it. I thought it was fun, and I feel like we've lost that, like, sort of, not mystery, but that sense of wonder of, you know, just sending some mail and waiting for it, that anticipation of waiting for the mail. Now everything is
Yeah,
so instant. We want instant connection.
yeah.
We want instant talking.
The last time I heard anticipation for mail was someone's Amazon order.
Right, exactly. No one's excited to get a letter from somebody in the mail anymore.
No,
But, like, now of all times, that should be when we should be bringing that stuff back. Like, hell, I'll send you a letter, Frankie, and, I'll put some stickers on it. I'll use my gel pens. I'll make it
I
pretty.
I want to paint by numbers, please.
Well, you can't have the one I'm working on. Maybe the
But
next one. The next one is a tiger.
oh, you got me.
I did.
You,
I know you.
now I'm gonna have all this tiger mail.
But no, and
But
like that's another thing. Like, you could say, "Hey, I want to paint by number. Hey, let's make and send gifts to each other. Paint pictures, send them to each other in the mail."
I do
Like,
I like that and the story things. They probably could
especially
because
young
I
kids, I feel like that is such a good way, not only for kids to be involved socially, but for families to just connect together too.
yeah, and kids and I think kids can do some of that stuff too with videos because they're so familiar with,
Right.
talking that way too that they definitely I think they
But
could
I'm
incorporate some of the ideas.
right, because even say you don't have to necessarily handwrite a story. Maybe you could film a movie, make a movie. You know, say if you and I were to, instead of making a book, we make a movie. I film the first half of the movie, you film the second half of the movie. Or, send it to as many friends as you want. And because you know how you see those like TikTok videos, it's like the transition thing where like somebody's
Yeah.
handing a bottle of wine off to somebody else. It's kind of like that. You could do that, but like make fucking movies.
And
Make movies or stories or whatever it be.
I just saw on Instagram too, they added some feature about being able to, I guess, do group video chats now. So I mean
Yeah.
that's a way to connect because everyone's so used to texting.
Right. And I feel like we need to get away from texting and like the instant chat. We need to get back
Bring
to FaceTime and
bring
the
back
video.
walkie talkies.
Yes, seriously. I will gladly buy some extra strength walkie-talkies if I lived closer to any of my friends. But
I
being
know
all the way across the state is very hard. I don't think they make walkie-talkies that strong.
you would be the friend that want to do that. None of my other close friends want to have walkie-talkies. I
What?
really, really want to.
Are you
I know.
kidding me? I'd be sneaking that walkie-talkie in the middle of the night while Mark's sleeping just to piss him off, just so you can hear your voice
Like,
suddenly in the middle of the night. Just hide my walkie under the pillow.
well, whenever I'd go into Walmart or Target, there would be in the typical electronics section, they always have a couple walkie-talkie options, and I look at them and I want to buy them, and then I get sad because I think my friends are gonna be like, Frank, you're not 7. Like, let's stop.
Well, I will
Even
be
with
7 with you. Gladly get us some walkie-talkies.
Huzzah. even even with a future partner, that's something I've wanted to do
Yeah,
too. Like, I
walkie-talkies
don't
are so
know,
much fun.
like, can we bring those back? And even because when we were
Yes,
kids,
families, bring those back for your children. If you
well, we
have
were
neighbors in your neighborhood, get some walkie-talkies.
well, one of my friends that I've been friends with since childhood, we used to talk on the phone every because we didn't texting a wasn't really a thing yet. At
Right.
least when we were kids, it wasn't. And then when I want to say junior high, high school, texting was starting to pick up, and like social media and all that stuff. But I I remember, yeah, we used to talk on the landlines, whether it was cordless or cord or whatever,
Yep.
and that was just I
There
don't
was
know, it
some
was good.
nostalgic about it. Hiding in the closet so no one could hear your conversation. Like
I
running off and getting to the phone before anybody else can, because you know that phone call's for you, even though it's probably a telemarketer.
and you couldn't use I don't remember telemarketers as much when I was a kid, but maybe I just blocked that out. But
We got a
I you
lot,
could
but that's mainly because my dad signed up for so much shit.
Oh, that makes sense then. I and then you couldn't use the internet when you're on the phone
Yep,
sometimes. Like I
yep,
remember those
dial up.
things. But I think it's just good practice for especially younger generations to since we can't be face to face all the time, like I think at least hearing the voice, it's still good practice where you're in they're not in front of you, but you're still interacting with them and can still sense emotion and stuff.
Right. Well, not only that, but it kind of goes into when you're an adult too, because like if you don't know how to speak on the phone to somebody, like I can tell you as a kid, I hated talking on the phone. I still don't really like talking on the phone, but I feel like had I had more practice talking on the phone, talking to strangers on the phone, talking to anybody over the phone, I feel like I would have been better off as an adult earlier on because I feel like
Mm.
it would have helped me like career rise, answering phones, talking to people, interviews, whatever it be. Being able to talk on the phone, I feel like is such an important skill to have, and that's one to instill at such a young age because it's harder to do when you're an adult.
And yeah, I agree. I see as a kid, I loved talking on the phone, but growing up, it was something I liked less and less, especially
Well,
when,
because
like,
you
as an
could
adult, you have
text.
I was just gonna say there was more, yeah, because easier options were
Right,
coming out. It was like,
easier
oh, I can
options.
just hide behind this
Yep.
now. But yeah, as an adult, you have to like, yeah, there's in-person interviews, but now there's phone interviews and Skype. Like, there's
Right.
different. Like, you're gonna definitely need to talk on a phone for certain things, whether yeah, for like a phone interview or
Right. And like
for
for example, like a phone interview, like you're not face to face, so you can't show that person your personality. So you have to convey your personality through your voice, through the phone. And if you don't have any practice talking just socially on the phone with anybody, with a friend or anything, trying to talk professionally and convey your personality through the phone is going to be extremely hard to do.
yeah, no, there's definitely some skill behind it.
Hmm.
So, as a teacher and childcare provider, what advice do you have for parents and children entering the new year?
Well, first and foremost, parents and children, anybody, please be kind and patient towards teachers and staff because they're just trying to figure this all out at the same pace as you are. You know, like I don't even know when I can officially go back to work. Technically, EEC isn't opening back up until June 29th, but that's a tentative date. It could still change. And
Mm.
as of right now, I don't know what our guidelines are for open. I haven't said anything. So I'm probably going to be learning these guidelines and rules as I start working again. So if you're coming into my classroom and you're giving me hell about these guidelines, I'm sorry, but I'm going to give you hell right back because I'm learning these guidelines just as fast as you are.
Yeah, I feel like it's already tough for teachers already to deal with kids on a daily basis.
It
This is going to
is.
add even more fuel to the fire.
Right. Because parents already, and like, I completely understand parents' frustration with all of this. It's completely understandable, but try to partner with your child's teacher instead of working against them. Try to
Mm.
partner with them through all of this so that way you guys can kind of help each other. Oh, if your kid's having a particularly hard time at home because they're really missing their grandparents or their cousins and they can't see them, so they're extra irritable, tell your teacher that. Tell their teacher so they can expect that. Partner with your kid's teacher. I cannot stress that enough with teaching and sending your kids back to school. Please be kind to the teachers and staff, even just janitors, regular school staff around the building. Like everybody is going through this at the same pace as you are. And also just try to remember the good in all this. At least your kids are still getting an education. It's not like they don't have access to an education at all.
Yeah.
There your kids still getting something. Try to remember any sort of good in any of this. Like it's something I've been doing to help me with this whole quarantine. I've been trying to think of every week a basic 5 things that I'm thankful for continuously throughout this quarantine. And then like
Oh,
each
nice.
day I try to think of one thing I'm thankful for that day in particular, something I can focus on. If it's a particularly hard morning with your kid, try to think of, hey, my kid can actually get out of the house today and go to school. This is a good day. He's not stuck at home throwing tantrums. He can actually go back to school. It might not be perfect, but he can get out of the house. Or whatever it be, like try to remember the good in this. It does
Yeah.
suck, but there is some light in all of this. There's always light in every situation.
Yeah, I think it's good to remember that we're all in the same boat, and
Mm-hmm.
but I think none of us 100% know how to fix it.
No,
So that's when some of the panic comes in, and that's why people start just doing things without thinking, and things end up getting messier than they needed to be.
right. Yeah, and people are panicking, so they're stressing out and they're doing things over the top, doing things they don't necessarily need to do or not enough. But, you know, and you also have to understand that everybody's situation's different. So we all have
Yeah.
to just try to be patient with each other. We're all in this together, as much as it
Yes.
might feel like we're separate because everybody's situation's different, but we're all living on the same planet. We're all dealing with this virus. This is all the new normal we're all having to deal with. And we just need to be patient and kind with everybody, with each other, not just teachers and, you know, school staff, but everybody in general. Be kind to your neighbors, be kind to Grocery store workers, essential workers, anybody. Just be kind and patient. That's all you can do at this point.
I agree. And yeah, that's pretty much it for episode 5. And I
Woo!
want to I want to thank today's sponsor. I want to thank Kim Stickley for being a special guest. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I want to thank Sakura HZ, who does the intro music for season 1 episodes, and Tokyo Music Walker, who does the outro that will play after beautiful voices are done talking. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you out there for listening. I do hope you guys are staying as safe as you can. And for all the kids going into the new school year, I wish you guys the best of luck.
Good
Also,
luck.
the teachers, the teachers and professional staff. I definitely also wish you guys the best of luck. I hope everything does work out for the best and there's not too much chaos. There's just been some awful stories in the news lately. That will definitely be another time to talk about. But I like let's try our best to be positive through this. Like we said, we're all in this together. So yeah. So everyone, I hope you have a great rest of the day and bye.